Hi everybody. Today we are going to discuss a product development process called the working backwards process. It is a process I'm particularly familiar with because it was coined by Amazon. So today we'll talk a little bit more about that process and see how you can apply it to your digital design project. Okay. So the objective of today's session is for you to be able to walk away from today, be able to fully articulate your big idea using a written document. Now, sometimes it's easier said than done, especially as designers. We're very visual people. But here, what we're going to do is actually use words and descriptors and thoroughly explain our vision for our product before we actually start designing it. And hopefully it gives you some time to really get some clarity on what it is exactly that you want to design. You'll also have this opportunity to learn about how a major company out there, such as Amazon, my employer, approaches the design and product development process. So I hope to be able to pass along that knowledge to you based on my experiences doing that at my work. So how does this information connect to your long-term goals? You may wonder what writing has to do with design, but they're actually very important that you be able to do both, preferably simultaneously. As a designer, it's important for you to be able to explain your vision for product design in the absence of visuals. So in some scenarios, when you start working as a designer, you'll find that the product direction or the overall kind of interaction model needs to be agreed upon before design work actually starts. So a lot of this communication process with the people that you work with or the people that will be funding your project will be really important. And you'll need to be able to write down very clearly your vision for the design before you can even start doing the design work. This also becomes increasingly important when you are working with the people who will build your products, so most likely engineers, and they need to be able to fully understand what it is you want to accomplish before they can even start their work. And sometimes the visual is not enough. So being able to write it down, being able to clearly explain it will be key to your success as a designer. And this is a great way to get practice doing it beforehand. Also, being able to write down your ideas means that it can be transferred to other people, and other people can give you really good feedback on your idea, like on your design idea, without having to go into a critique of your design work. Sometimes putting visuals in front of people too early tends to distract them, or they get focused on the wrong details. In this case, as a designer, when you're writing essentially a product press release or a product pitch, they can only focus on how you've described the information, less so about how it looks. So this is a great way to kind of decouple the visual design side of your work and the conceptual side. So hopefully this will be a great exercise for you. So today we'll be discussing this process called the working backwards process. We're also going to review the format of this press release that this document is written in, and I'll go through all the individual components that comprise a successful press release. You'll also work on this idea of an elevator pitch, meaning a very quick way to explain your idea, and you'll actually, at least in person, we would typically do this in the school elevators since we're on the 8th floor, which is great. In this case, you may need to practice, if you're doing this online, then you'll need to practice this some other way. So maybe finding an escalator or finding an elevator and a willing friend with an ear. Additionally, we'll go ahead and get started on our press releases as well so that you are set up for success for your first project. So, what is the working backwards process? So I'd mentioned that this is a process that we heavily use at Amazon to articulate new feature ideas or these really big concepts where we don't quite have the time or people to start designing it yet. We use written documents like press releases to help other people understand what it is we want to build and why it's important and its impact on users or customers. So it's a great way for you as a designer or someone who's creating something from scratch, especially being able to kind of expand upon your big vision and being able to explain it as well as you can without actually having to build the whole thing. So being able to design an app from scratch can take you 2 weeks or 4 weeks, 18 weeks, 3 years. It will really vary based on how complex the product is. With the working backwards documents, you'll be able to just spend maybe a week or two being able to write down your big ideas and be able to kind of refine them over that period without actually having to do the design work. So it's a way for you to save time, and a way for you to kind of commit to a direction before you start doing the actual visual design work. The press release should be written as kind of this forward-looking document, meaning if this press release were to be sent out on the wire 2 years from now, what would it say? So they would explain what the product is, it would explain how to learn more information, it probably would have some quotes or information about product philosophy and why it's being built and why it's important. It may explain who this product is designed for, and also where they can go for more information or to actually start using the product. So it includes a lot of information, but what trips up a lot of people is that it's supposed to be a forward-looking press release, meaning you don't write it for the product stage that's in today. You write it from the mindset of essentially releasing this press release when the app is essentially ready for the world to use, or it's already been launched. So the vision of your product generally starts with the need of the customer or the user. I say customer a lot because that's how we phrase things at Amazon, but obviously you're working most likely for users and not for customers. But what you want to do is actually start from an identified need, so a particular goal or problem that people are looking to solve, and then start working backwards from there. So what does that mean? It means that you don't have a hypothesis in terms of what you think current user problems are for a particular space. So maybe with social networks, for example, maybe there's some sort of hidden untapped market of being able to have a closed private connection with people in your daily lives, or maybe there's some sort of geolocation feature of it. But what you want to do is first you want to know that it's a problem that you're designing for. Then you actually want to bring in customer data or user data or their quotes to help kind of back up your product vision and to give it a little bit more personality, meaning that you can attach someone's kind of problem set to this solution that you're going to build. And this type of exercise is meant to help companies and help designers kind of decouple themselves from like the vision of the product, meaning that you don't want to design it for you in particular. You actually want to design it for a larger subset of people who have these same types of problems. And of course, you may end up being one of these users. You may very strongly identify with it, but we want to take this from a perspective that you're designing for somebody else, and preferably a group of these people, and identifying those problems and then solving it on their behalf would be your primary objective. So what's the type of information that's included in the press release? Generally, the press release is actually one component of the working backwards process. There's actually a couple of other assets that are required when we turn them in for review. We generally have a press release. We have an FAQ section. Essentially anything that couldn't have been addressed in the press release will have like frequently asked questions, that's what it stands for. And then it may include some napkin sketches or hand-drawn sketches or wireframes, meaning kind of black and white designs with boxes and lines and words. But we try to put the bulk amount of effort into the actual written document itself. For this class, we'll be focusing primarily on the press release. We won't be doing frequently asked questions, and we won't be doing the initial hand sketches quite yet. We'll actually phase that out for a little bit later in the project. But in combination, these 3 different documents that you kind of deliver as one would help you essentially get traction in the company or funding for a particular idea. So if you're looking to work on something particularly controversial at your workplace, or you're looking to kind of assemble a team of people and take them off of their current projects, a press release like this or this kind of stack of working backwards documents would help create a kind of a persuasive it helps persuade people essentially to get on your side, but then also to see the value in what it is that you want to build. So for your interaction design project, what you want to do is actually start composing your forward-looking press release to explain that product vision. So you might not have an idea of what it is you want to do yet. You may still need some brainstorming sessions or to sit down by yourself or with a group to kind of bounce ideas off of each other. But ultimately, once you land on an idea that you enjoy and you know that you'll enjoy working on it for the next 6 to 8 weeks, you can go ahead and start putting together this press release. And there is a specific format that is provided for you, and I'll make sure to link that in the class notes. There's specific information you need to include for your press release so that it explains as thoroughly as possible what it is that you want to design. There are example press releases that I'll also link to that you can model your press release after. Amazon actually externally publishes all of their press releases for products and features that have launched publicly. So you can read through and see how other people, like people that I work with, have went along and structured their press release and how they've worded things. After you write your press release, you will also work with your peers, so your fellow classmates, and also the writing center to edit it before you submit it. And then I will provide a link and kind of a deadline for you so that you can have your vision document, your press release written and finalized before you actually start the design work. So let's dive in a little bit and talk about what exactly is included in a press release. So a press release is formatted in a number of different ways, but most frequently it's a Word document. It looks very plain. It's not designed with any particular template in mind, but there are certain pieces of content that needs to be in your press release to have it qualify as one. So generally there's a headline, so a heading, where you name a product and exactly what it is that this product will do. So if we were to take the Amazon Echo, for instance, a headline, an acceptable headline could be Amazon Echo, the voice assistant for your home is now launching this month. That could be an acceptable press release. What we need to do after that, following the headlines, include a subheadline, which essentially describes what that product is. And again, it's a subheadline, so it's pretty short. We don't want to write a paragraph for it, but we want to explain as clearly as possible what this product is, who it's for, and what it's meant to do. So we could say, the Amazon Echo, now launching in homes throughout the United States, helps shoppers and households be able to organize to-do lists, organize shopping lists, and control their home without their hands. So it's all voice activated. So that could be an example of a subheadline, probably a little more eloquently stated in your press release than what I just came up with verbally. After that, we actually have a summary statement. So as you may remember, when writing essays, there's an introduction, the body of the essay, and then a conclusion. In this case, it's actually kind of the reverse. So the summary statement is usually a paragraph. It can be a very long paragraph that explains pretty much everything that I need to know about the product and the actual benefit that the product provides. The best thing that you can do for the purposes of this press release is assume that nothing after this statement actually gets read. So in 4 or 5 lines, explain what your product is and what it's meant to do and who you've designed it for. And you can keep it pretty brief. It's a summary of your product because the rest, like the rest of your press release, the body of it, will actually be an opportunity for you to explain in a little bit more detail what it includes. After your summary, you then include your problem statement. So describe kind of in depth what problem your product solves and to what scale. So for what demographics, for what kind of users, what particular problems are they facing, and why is it important, essentially, is what you want to cover. For the next paragraph, you'll then focus on the solution. So this goes into details as to how your product will work. So in the summary statement, you mentioned what the product was, you gave a quick overview, but now in the solution, I actually want to understand how this product will solve these problems, and not just like, oh, it's going to, open doors and turn on lights, and read books to you, but specifically state how this particular device or this service or this app will address these concerns directly. So, for instance, maybe one of your problem statements is that your users need a way to be able to control all the lights in their home, because a lot of these people who are interested in smart home products are first-time parents, so their hands are just generally full. They have groceries, they have bags, they have a baby in their other arm. So you can use this paragraph to explain specifically all the different problems that this type of person would have and how your solution directly addresses each one of those problems. So for instance, the Amazon Echo Assistant is a great companion for new parents, for parents who need help with the groceries. There's a voice shopping interface where you can add things to your grocery list and you can place orders without having to use a computer or a mobile phone. You can just use your voice to order groceries. For parents who often have their hands full between cooking and holding the baby, and coming into the home with a lot of different grocery bags or just their work bags, you can use the voice interface to control all the lights in your home. So information like that. So getting to the real nitty gritty details of specifically how your digital product will solve these problems. From there, we somewhere, if not here after the solution, then somewhere in the body of this press release, you want to include a quote from you, the designer, to explain why this problem was so interesting to you that you wanted to solve it, or talk about how you want to solve this problem and why this is the best way to do it. So this is meant to give a little bit more context as to who is designing it and their background and why they think it's important. The next quote would be a customer quote. So here I'm jumping a little bit, but there should also be a customer quote or a user quote. So you'll need to, this will be more fictitious. So again, this is a forward-looking document. But if someone were to have used this product, what would they say about it? Would they say it's amazing? Would they say it's helpful? Would they, compliment some of the features, etc.? So you'll actually use a fictitious customer quote again to give some sort of context as to who is using this product and why it's solved all their problems and changed their lives. From there, you'll want to provide information on how to get started. So if it's a mobile app, do they go to a particular website and download it? Or do they go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and search for this name and start downloading it and start using it? And in particular, what we need to know here is specifically how they get started with the app. So don't just stop at telling them to download the app. You need to tell them, if they need to create an account, what kind of information they need to put in, do they need to pair it with any other information, etc. So make sure you give them information on how they would get started. This would essentially be a blueprint that you can hand off to your parents or an investor, and they can just read this and know exactly what they need to do in order to start using this product and get up and running. From there, provide a closing or call to action. So this is more of a statement that you want to make with your words so that they know where to go and what to do next, or where they could learn more information about this product. So not just the App Store, but maybe there's a website that you want to direct them to, or a phone number for some reason if you want them to call somewhere. But give them a place to go for more information if they don't want to get started right away. So now that you know all the components of a press release, we actually want to examine some existing press releases so you have a model by which to base your press release off of. So I would recommend going to Amazon's website, their corporate relations site, and looking at some of the press releases that are available, and opening it and reading it, and you can use this kind of outline to deconstruct it. So first, find the example of a press release. And then I would work together in groups on this versus individually. You'll be able to get a lot more information and kind of consensus on this information. So read it together as a group. From there, I want you to answer these series of questions. So who is the customer? essentially who is the person that they are designing this product for. The next one is what problems were identified that need to be solved, that are going to be solved using this problem, or I'm sorry, using this product. From there, I want you to identify exactly what the solution is. So how are they going to solve these problems, and what is the product that they're going to use in order to do so, and what in the product helps address these specific problems. The next one I want you to focus on is actually finding the quote of the person who is creating the product or most informed it. So look for quotes, look for a spokesperson from the company or the designer on the project, and that information should be in there. And then the last one, I want you to look for where they give a call to action. So where can I go for more information, or where can I get started with this product? So why don't you go ahead and do that, and then we will return. Okay, so now that you've had a chance to examine an existing press release, now what we want to do is actually get started with your very first project idea, and actually starting to put pen to paper on this one. So there is a project design brief that you can access through Canvas. And as you're working through this press release or this draft, I want you to think about what your big idea is. So as a refresher for this project, your objective is to create a new digital product concept for a brand or a company that already exists. So what you want to do is just create kind of this offshoot of an existing company. You want to from a visual design and interaction design standpoint, you actually want to stick with how it currently looks and feels and works right now. All you're looking to do is, again, expand on one set of problems or for a particular set of users. In this case, the bigger the brand, the better, because that means that you'll have more design assets to work from, and you'll be able to essentially use the product before you start designing it. So an example of acceptable product ideas for this project would be a Capital One digital payment account for teenagers, an Uber for kids, Netflix for universities, etc. So we have a big company that you're going to select on your own, and then what we want to do is create kind of this very specific experience for a very specific group of people, and make sure it's informed by some of the problem statements that you will uncover through your user research. So let's go ahead and get started with your writing. The first thing we want to focus on is just writing that summary statement. So this first paragraph is indeed the hardest, because you're coming at this cold. You probably have a ton of ideas, and it's hard to kind of synthesize everything into just a couple of sentences, but try your best. So first off, make sure you read the core article that I'm linking. It is written by Ian McAllister. He was the director on Amazon Smile. I've worked on that for one hot minute. And then now he's back at he went to Airbnb. Now he's back at Amazon working on some other confidential projects. But he does a great job kind of explaining what the product development process is, what exactly is working backwards, and what a press release should entail. From there, do your best to write a summary statement of your idea. So maybe the name of the product, the kind of that mother company that you're designing for. Is it Capital One? Is it Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, etc.? When you're ready, since we're going to be doing some of these exercises in class, I do want you to print it out, and you'll partner up with someone to review the ideas. And this review is less about if it's a good idea or a bad idea. That's not what I want you to focus on while you kind of do these peer critiques. I just want you to focus on how clearly did they explain their product concept and why it's important to pursue. If you've already written your press release, go ahead and print them out, and you can come to me and we'll directly review your statement together. Okay, so now that you've had some time to put together your summary statement, we'll go ahead and partner up, or you'll submit it for someone else to review, like a peer review. And what we want to do, if you're doing this together in person, I actually want you to head to the elevators and get in. So you're gonna need your printed summary statement, you're gonna need a partner, and you're gonna need an elevator. So since we're on the 8th floor in the CU building, for your partners, one partner will read the the summary statement, which is going to be your elevator pitch, one person will read it on the way down, and then you'll get off the elevators and then switch roles and then go back up, and then the next partner will then read essentially their elevator pitch. Make sure you repeat with your new partner until you finish, or if you want more feedback, then find another partner and kind of repeat that process as well. For your second round, I want you to focus on not using your notes. So being able to do it without looking at your piece of paper. That might be a little bit challenging based on how new this idea is to you. I know it would definitely be challenging for me. And then once you're done, go ahead and start making some edits to your summary statement based on the feedback that you've gotten, or just generally how it felt to deliver this information. So now that you've done that exercise, some things that I want you to reflect upon are, how did the timing feel of this press release? Did it feel like you jumped too quickly into the solution before presenting the problem or the idea? If so, you might need a little bit more time to develop the right statements to better explain your product. Did you provide too much detail or not enough detail? Was the other person looking for more information after you provided your product summary, or did they understand the gist of it? Did your partner get bored? That would be a bad sign, because that elevator ride is pretty short and your statement is probably pretty short as well. So if they got bored, re-examine the problem that you're looking to solve and how you've messaged the impact that this app or the solution will have on your target users. Did your partner get confused? Same thing. Go back and look at that information and see how you could have explained something a little bit better, or made it less ambiguous on what your product design would be. And then the last thing I'd want you to think about is, was it difficult to do without your notes? Sometimes if it's too difficult to do without notes, it means that you've explained it in too complex of a manner, or the product is still confusing to you. Therefore, when you communicate it to someone, it was very confusing for them. Okay, so now that we've gone through and discussed the working backwards process, and we looked at examples, and you've taken a stab at your first summary statement, and you've even had a chance to practice it, let's go ahead and focus on writing your documents. So if you're doing this as an individual, then you'll need to make sure you find peer reviewers and set up your writing center appointment and do that. Chances are you will be working in groups on this one, so you'll need to coordinate a way to collaborate on a document, and then have a representative go to the writing center or to submit the draft online. I would suggest using something like Google Docs. That way everyone has access to the document at the same time, and you can actually write it together, either live, like together in person, or you can do it asynchronously. Someone can start the work and then someone else can finish it at home, or you can do live edits to it. So that concludes the working backwards process section of class. I hope you have a very productive writing session. Thanks.